In the Chinese film industry, there once emerged such a star. He not only brought Chinese kung fu films to the entire world, but also gave foreigners a stereotypical impression of all Chinese people, that everyone knows martial arts. And not just that, but they are incredibly skilled at it. This person is Bruce Lee. Bruce Lee is both a pioneer of global martial arts reform, and the creator of the kung fu film genre. Perhaps every Chinese person has heard his name, but many have long forgotten his story. As a result, opinions about Bruce Lee online have always been polarized. Today, let's uncover the behind-the-scenes story of Bruce Lee, and see how he step by step became a kung fu master of his generation, and how he relied on just 4.5 films to become an international superstar who influenced the world. What is the highest realm of martial arts? It is to conceal techniques within formlessness. And what do you feel when you face an opponent? In my eyes, I have no enemies. Bruce Lee's birth name was Li Zhenfan. He was born in 1940 in San Francisco, California, USA. The reason Bruce Lee began learning martial arts from a young age was actually related to his family. Bruce Lee was born into a family with a strong martial arts background. His grandfather was named Li Zhenbiao, and during the late Qing dynasty, he was a renowned martial artist in the Shunde area of Guangdong. Bruce Lee's father was named Li Haiquan, and he was a famous Cantonese opera clown actor in China. Li Haiquan not only had excellent operatic skills, but he was also a master of Tai Chi. When Bruce Lee was young, he had a thin and small build. To help him grow up strong and healthy, his father, Li Haiquan, started teaching him Tai Chi when he was 7 years old. From then on, Bruce Lee developed a deep interest in the martial arts of various schools and styles. He became fascinated by them. When Bruce Lee was a child, apart from his love for practicing martial arts, he also loved acting very much. Since his father was a renowned Cantonese opera actor, when Bruce Lee was very young, he often took on minor roles in films. Bruce Lee had exceptional acting talent. At the age of 10, he starred in his first film, the Kid. In the Kid, we can see Bruce Lee's expressions and movements were already remarkably precise and natural. Although Bruce Lee had outstanding acting talent, his father didn't want him to pursue acting when he grew up. He didn't want Bruce Lee to become an actor. After all, in that era, actors were considered part of the lowest class of society. In order for Bruce Lee to have greater prospects in the future, to achieve greater success, Li Haiquan stopped letting him act, and made him focus on his studies. He hoped Bruce Lee would go into business or politics when he grew up, but at this point, Bruce Lee had already become obsessed with acting, to the extent that his attitude toward schooling, he showed absolutely no interest. Since Bruce Lee disliked going to school, during his school years, he often skipped classes to engage in fighting and brawling. However, Bruce Lee never bullied the weak. He often fought for injustice on behalf of his classmates. In 1953, 13-year-old Bruce Lee had already learned the basics of Tai Chi, as well as martial arts styles like Hung Gar and Choi Li Foot. But he realized that these styles, when used in street fights, were not very practical for actual combat. On the other hand, his good friend Zhang Zhouqing's Wing Chun was extremely effective, so he suggested to his friend Zhang Zhouqing that he wanted to learn Wing Chun for self-defense. Later, Zhang Zhouqing introduced Bruce Lee to his teacher, Ip Man. And so, through the introduction of his friend Zhang Zhouqing, Bruce Lee formally became a disciple of Ip Man, and began learning Wing Chun. Upon encountering the fundamentals of Wing Chun, Bruce Lee seemed possessed, as if he were under a spell. He redirected the energy he once devoted to pranks and fighting, entirely into researching and studying Kung Fu. One day in 1956, after Bruce Lee had a verbal argument with a few British students, he ended up beating them up. This incident caused quite a stir. In the end, Bruce Lee had to transfer to St. Francis Xavier's College. Because of Bruce Lee's frequent brawls, and his growing reputation, the physical education teacher at his new school encouraged him to join Hong Kong's inter-school joint boxing competition. After several months of training, Bruce Lee represented St. Francis Xavier's College in the competition. He fought his way through to the finals, and ultimately won the championship. Although this was not a professional boxing competition, being able to stand out among over 100 amateur boxers, and finally win the championship, demonstrates that Bruce Lee had a certain level of actual combat ability in the ring. In 1958, Bruce Lee had a dispute with someone who practiced Choi Li Foot. They agreed to settle the conflict through a duel. They arranged to fight on a rooftop. However, the person who practiced Choi Li Foot was no match for Bruce Lee at all. Bruce Lee knocked out his opponent within just a few rounds. He also kicked out one of his opponent's teeth. The next day, the opponent's parents brought the police to Bruce Lee's school. The school principal summoned Bruce Lee's mother. He issued a warning to Bruce Lee. Since the opponent came from a family with some influence, Li Haiquan and his wife were worried about potential retaliation against Bruce Lee. They decided to send him to the United States to study and live. This marked the beginning of Bruce Lee's journey to America. Before leaving Hong Kong, Bruce Lee sought out the son of Huo Yuanjia, Huo Donga's disciple, Xiao Hansheng, to learn northern-style martial arts. In an interview, Xiao Hansheng once said, Bruce Lee had exceptional martial arts talent. Others needed several weeks to learn martial arts routines. He mastered all of them in just 3 days. Moreover, during the learning process, Bruce Lee made many suggestions. He felt that some techniques were impractical in real combat. Changes had to be made. For the average person, the Gongli Fist routine would take several weeks or even a month to learn. Yet Bruce Lee mastered the Gongli Fist in just 3 nights. In 1959, Bruce Lee bid farewell to his family, carrying $100 given to him by his father. He traveled alone across the ocean to the United States to study. After Bruce Lee arrived in the United States, he decided to become self-reliant and not add any burden to his family. He attended classes during the day, worked in a restaurant at night, and also worked part-time delivering morning newspapers. Despite his tough living conditions, Bruce Lee's passion for kung fu did not diminish in the slightest. He placed his wooden dummy and some training equipment in the courtyard behind the restaurant. Every day, he would make time to train for 2 to 4 hours. During this period, Bruce Lee also visited various places to meet Chinese martial artists in America, and at martial artist Mike Kwan's Mantis Kung Fu School. He studied Mantis Kung Fu for about a month. During his time at school, Bruce Lee balanced his studies while promoting Chinese martial arts. However, many foreign students believe that Chinese martial arts lacked actual combat ability, so they frequently challenged Bruce Lee, but they were no match for Bruce Lee. After defeating a few challengers, Bruce Lee's reputation at school grew rapidly. Some of the challengers, after being defeated by Bruce Lee, directly sought to become his students, and asked him to teach them martial arts. As Bruce Lee's number of disciples increased, he rented a vacant spot in the school parking lot, and put up a plaque reading, Zhenfan National Martial Arts School. Although all of Bruce Lee's disciples were once his defeated opponents, but Bruce Lee did not believe that the martial arts these students had previously practiced lacked actual combat ability. Before understanding that most of them had practiced primarily judo and karate, Bruce Lee also enrolled in a training class, specifically to study judo and karate. He believed it was not about any specific school of martial arts, as long as one could use their body without limitations. As long as one could freely perform intense movements and wholeheartedly express oneself with complete dedication. In 1964, Bruce Lee, as a guest performer, participated in the first Long Beach International Karate Championship. Bruce Lee's demonstration of the 1-inch punch and 2-finger push-ups amazed the foreign spectators. By this time, Bruce Lee had already learned over 20 types of martial arts, including Wing Chun, Tai Chi, Karate, and Judo. Later, he integrated the essence of these martial arts together to create a modern martial art of versatile and unrestricted combat. It was Jeet Kune Do. Bruce Lee knew that simply taking in students like this, it would be difficult to widely promote his Jeet Kune Do. To spread his Jeet Kune Do to the entire world, he decided to become an actor. So, in 1965, he signed with Hollywood's 20th Century Fox on an actor's contract, officially becoming an actor. In 1966, Bruce Lee filmed his first TV series after joining 20th Century Fox, The Green Hornet. He played Kato, the assistant, in the show. Although Bruce Lee had limited screen time, and even had to wear a mask, his agile physique and lightning-fast reflexes still left a deep impression on the audience. After this TV series aired, Bruce Lee gained some fame in Hollywood. However, at the time, Hollywood was dominated by white actors. The spotlight on screen was always reserved for Caucasian leads. In addition, the portrayal of Chinese characters in Hollywood films at the time had to have their hair braided and act as scheming, servile villains. Therefore, they didn't allow Bruce Lee to shine in front of the camera. Consequently, after The Green Hornet aired, Fox Film Corporation did not offer Bruce Lee any positive roles. Instead, they assigned him roles that insulted the image of Chinese people. But Bruce Lee refused to play such roles. At the time, Bruce Lee was very poor. So poor that he couldn't even afford to pay rent. Yet he told the head of Fox Film Corporation, "I'd rather starve to death than accept payment to play a role that insults my people." Chinese characters in American TV shows all have long braids and are chased around like monkeys by Americans. Their eyes are always depicted as slanted. I think this is wrong. I've long since made up my mind to show America the true essence of Eastern culture. Because Bruce Lee refused to play roles that insulted the image of Chinese people, the executives at Fox Film Corporation only assigned him small cameo roles. Many of these roles didn't even have a single line of dialogue. Feeling neglected in Hollywood, Bruce Lee ultimately decided to return to Hong Kong to further his career. He then wrote a letter to a friend, expressing his desire to return to Hong Kong to act in films. With the help of his friend, he got in touch with the executives of Shaw Brothers Studio. In March 1970, Bruce Lee returned to Hong Kong under the pretext of visiting relatives. Later, he met with Run Run Shaw, the head of Shaw Brothers Studio. However, their conversation was far from pleasant. Although Bruce Lee had significant fame in the martial arts world at the time, he was not well known in the film industry. The demands he proposed to Raymond Chow were a personal pay of $10,000 per film, and the right to modify the scripts. Additionally, the fight scenes had to be shot according to his demands. Each film came with a personal payment of $10,000. For Hollywood actors, this was definitely not a high amount. However, at that time, the pay for Hong Kong actors wasn't that high yet, especially at Shaw Brothers Studio. At that time, the most popular Shaw Brothers actors, such as T. Lung and David Chang, were only paid 10,000 Hong Kong dollars. Therefore, Run Run Shaw was only willing to offer Bruce Lee $2,000 per film. Since neither side was willing to compromise, the two parties ultimately failed to reach a deal. After leaving Shaw Brothers, Bruce Lee directly flew back to the United States. At this time, he didn't know how his future in the film industry would unfold. Just as he was at a loss, someone suddenly knocked on his door. That person was Liu Lianghua, the wife of the renowned director Lo Wei. So why did Liu Lianghua go looking for Bruce Lee? After the establishment of Golden Harvest in 1969, they produced a film called The One-Armed Swordsman vs. the Blind Knight. Golden Harvest also recruited Jimmy Wong Yu, the star of The One-Armed Swordsman to star in this production. After the film was released, although it achieved decent box office success, Run Run Shaw felt that Golden Harvest had infringed on the copyright of The One-Armed Swordsman. As a result, he took Golden Harvest to court. This lawsuit cost Golden Harvest millions in legal fees, causing significant losses. At that time, Golden Harvest had just been established, and although it had the backing of overseas funds, its foundation was still relatively weak. Without remarkable achievements, it could have faced a swift closure. To turn the company's unfavorable situation around, Raymond Chow decided to invite Zheng Peipei, who had already retired from the entertainment industry, to help resolve the company's crisis. So, Raymond Chow sent Golden Harvest executive Liu Lianghua. They invited Zheng Peipei to come to the United States. However, Zheng Peipei clearly stated that she did not want to return to acting. At this time, Raymond Chow received news that Shaw Brothers had rejected Bruce Lee. Therefore, he instructed Liu Lianghua to invite Bruce Lee. Although Golden Harvest was on the verge of bankruptcy at the time, they still demonstrated their utmost sincerity. They agreed to pay Bruce Lee $7,500 per film. They also promised to let him take creative control of the films. In this way, Bruce Lee agreed to shoot 2 films for Golden Harvest. The first was The Big Boss. The original director of this film was Wu Jiaxiong. However, his filming approach was incompatible with Bruce Lee's. At the time, action scenes in Hong Kong films were mostly shot in long takes, with 2 actors exchanging moves in front of the camera, and fights lasting several minutes were commonplace. But Bruce Lee did not want to film this way, because his Jeet Kune Do emphasized speed, precision, and efficiency, to knock down the opponent in a short amount of time. Therefore, when filming fight scenes, Bruce Lee demanded that a single kick should take down one opponent. With 3 kicks, 3 opponents should be down. However, Wu Jiaxiong insisted on using the previous method to film the fight scenes. Since neither of them could convince the other, Golden Harvest had no choice but to dismiss Wu Jiaxiong and appoint Lo Wei as the director of this film. This gave Bruce Lee considerable creative freedom, allowing him to choreograph and film the fight scenes his way. After this film was released, it achieved an impressive box office of 3.5 million Hong Kong dollars. It broke the highest box office record for Hong Kong films at the time. The explosive success of this film also proved that Bruce Lee's innovations in fight choreography were correct. This film not only revolutionized the fight choreography style of that era, but also redefined the entire fight scene model of martial arts films, with its impact continuing to be felt even to this day. If you want to fight, then fight me. After the explosive success of The Big Boss Bruce Lee immediately began planning his next film, Fist of Fury. The reason Bruce Lee decided to make this film was because, in the 1970s, under British colonial rule in Hong Kong, there was severe racial discrimination. At that time, Hong Kong citizens in front of the British were considered second-class citizens and could not receive fair treatment. The passionate and fiery Bruce Lee witnessed the corrupt colonial rule of the Hong Kong British government and felt deeply enraged, coupled with the unfair treatment he experienced abroad. He strongly wished for Chinese people to stand up freely and independently. Therefore, he made the film Fist of Fury. I am the most cowardly student of Fist of Fury. I want to taste the strength of Japanese fists. As soon as the film was released, it once again broke Hong Kong's box office records and caused a sensation worldwide. Bruce Lee, also, through his riveting performance in this film, completely shattered the stereotypical impression foreigners held of Chinese people. Before Bruce Lee gained fame, many foreigners had a stereotypical impression of Chinese people. They perceived them as weak and sickly. After Bruce Lee gained fame, foreigners started thinking all Chinese people knew Kung Fu, and that it was extraordinarily powerful. Bruce Lee single-handedly elevated the entire Chinese community in the eyes of foreigners. Remember this. Chinese people are not weaklings. After The Big Boss and Fist of Fury both achieved massive success, Bruce Lee gained complete control over a film project. Thus, he directed and starred in Way of the Dragon. After Bruce Lee obtained full creative control over the film, he abandoned the traditional Hong Kong directorial methods in both filming and presentation styles. Bruce Lee wanted audiences to see authentic combat techniques in his films. Therefore, during the filming of this project, he invited 3 true martial arts experts to play his opponents in the movie. They were Wong In-sik, Bob Wall, and Chuck Norris. All 3 of them had heard of Bruce Lee's famous reputation. However, they believed Bruce Lee was only famous in name but lacked real skill. Therefore, they were unwilling to be defeated by Bruce Lee in the movie. They even challenged Bruce Lee, saying, "If you want us to participate in the filming of this movie, you'll have to spar with us first. If we lose, we'll join the filming." So, Bruce Lee went with them to a designated spot in the countryside to engage in a controlled sparring match. As it turned out, Bruce Lee only needed a few rounds to knock all 3 of them to the ground. The 3 of them honored their promise. After the movie was released, it earned a box office revenue of 5.3 million Hong Kong dollars. The film became a sensation not only in Asia, but also brought international attention to Bruce Lee. Bruce Lee's exquisite martial arts moves and intense fight scenes made him a representative figure of martial arts films. Translate for him. This is true Chinese Kung Fu. During the production of *The Way of the Dragon, Bruce Lee began filming Game of Death. However, while Bruce Lee was working on this film, Hollywood's Warner Brothers extended an olive branch and invited him to play the lead role in *Enter the Dragon. Bruce Lee knew that this was his golden opportunity to break into Hollywood. So, he temporarily halted the filming of Game of Death and devoted all of his energy to the production of Enter the Dragon. Bruce Lee understood that this was his chance to make a name for himself in Hollywood. Thus, he poured his heart and soul into the making of this movie. Many of the fight scenes, including the choreography and movements of over 300 extras, were personally arranged and directed by Bruce Lee. Wooden boards don't fight back. After completing *The Way of the Dragon*, Bruce Lee returned to Hong Kong. He planned to continue filming Game of Death. On July 20, 1973, Bruce Lee visited the home of actress Betty Ting Pei. He intended to discuss the script with Betty Ting Pei. He suddenly felt a headache and discomfort. Betty Ting Pei then gave him a painkiller. Bruce Lee took the pill and lay down on the bed to sleep. After that, he never woke up. Later, the forensic doctors released the autopsy report. It was determined that Bruce Lee died due to cerebral edema. However, what exactly caused the cerebral edema remains unknown. Although Bruce Lee only lived a brief life of 33 years, he has already become, in a certain sense, a totem of Eastern culture. Americans praised him as the King of Kung Fu. The Japanese called him the Saint of Martial Arts. Although he has left us for 51 years, his legend continues to endure. That concludes today's program. If you enjoyed it, please give us a follow. See you in our next episode.